Hello and welcome to the ministry. This is Taj McCameron, and today we get to go into the kingdom marriage realm. This is so much fun for me because I love talking about these things because the Lord has kind of shown me in the things that He's been doing in my life and around my life and in relation to my life that I have the ability to speak on kingdom marriage. So I'm going to do a whole kingdom marriage series. There's a playlist in the playlist, so you will find all the things that I'm talking about playlist wise, God ordained marriage, right there. And I'm talking about it from the perspective in which I understand it and the way that the Lord has prepared me for it. Okay? So, first I want to say, over this past several years, I have seen so many kingdom marriages in my time when I was in New York. I met a pastor in the church I was in there. That pastor had been married for 27 years. And during the other ministry, they had a visiting pastor that had been married 54 years. My pastor, the last time I was in Baltimore, he had been married to his wife 26 years. And the pastor for the church that I was in just before I left New York, him and his wife had been married since he was 18 and he's 46. So how long is that? That's 18, 28, 38. So he's going on 30 years. So he's been married for about almost 28 years. So I have had great married people speaking into my life. Not only that, the Lord has surrounded me with a lot of women that are in preparation for marriage. This is the marriage season, so if you're in preparation for marriage, listen up, because I got some advice for you, okay? Now, some may sit up there and say, how can a person that isn't married have advice for a person that is married? Because guess what? I'm willing and able to do the research, not only on the fact of how to keep a marriage, but how to prepare for a marriage, what to do once you get married, so on and so forth. And the Lord is preparing me in the ways and what I need to do in order to be a good wife. So, what comes with that? We're talking about what a marriage should be and how to study marriage. You have to study the Lord's people and spouses, marriage of the people that, as I listed, their standing in marriage. Young, influential marriages in the church of God, counseling for marriage, pastors that are helping people prepare for marriage in order for you to have longevity. Now, some might say there's a big debate. There's some people that do premarital counseling for 6 weeks before they get married. Sometimes the Lord won't even have you do that. Sometimes the Lord will be like, get married and you'll figure it out once you get there. But in Him saying that, He is preparing the people separately. He's preparing them mentally and emotionally to deal with the things that they know are the issues that they have personally, so that when they get into their marriage season, that they're not messing up and dealing in ways that is like, okay, this is going to mess our peace up. This is going to mess our household up. This is going to cause problems. If you're getting married one of the first things I really suggest that you would do is to sit down and have a conversation, depending on if you're getting married fast or slow, that you two of you need to discuss what your goals for your marriage are. What type of work does each one of you do? If I'm in ministry and my spouse is in something else, how are our schedules going to conflict? If our schedules are going to conflict, are our schedules going to conflict? Because I am what you call a digital nomad, so I can go anywhere and do anything at any time. I just need a space to sit down and work. Meaning I can either, if I'm in a loud space, I can sit and zone out by putting music in my ears and typing notes that I need to type. Work on my blog. I just figured out now how to do that. On my website, I can post blog entries through my phone. And I was like, yes. I literally just figured that out. So I now can do that. So anywhere I'm at, I can post my blog posts. I know how to set up my podcast that I got so many episodes backlogged that I got to go into the backlog to set up all of my episodes, and then go in and systematically set up all of the posts for each individual article that needs to go up for those back posts. Then I still got to get my blog to the point that is up to date with everything that I am posting for the video part. So if you know that that's the type of thing that you do, how can you maintain that with being married? Are you easily able to shift with your spouse? Meaning your spouse says, I want you to come with me today, and it's like, okay, but you know that he's going to be doing this. You could be sitting there doing blog posts while he's sitting there doing what he's doing. Or maybe he doesn't want you with him all the time. Maybe he wants you at home taking care of the house. If he wants you at home taking care of the house, how do you go about taking care of the house? Are you up early, making breakfast, making sure that he has breakfast? What time does he eat? Does he eat immediately when he gets up, or does he go to the gym first? Does he do this before he eats? What is it that he does to prepare himself to go to the gym? Does he drink a smoothie before he goes? Make his smoothie for him. What are the things that you got to do in order to prepare for the things that is the day-to-day motions in which y'all are going to have to deal with as a married couple, even before your kids come into the picture? Understand and maintain yourself. We as women, and some of us, admittedly, this is me. And because this is me on an average everyday basis, I haven't been on a date in 10 years. And because I haven't been on a date in 10 years, I have not made it a evident process for me to go out and be dressed for no reason. If I don't have a reason, meaning I don't have a blog, a vlog, a business post, or something I need to do that needs me to get dressed. Depending on what audience I'm speaking to will determine how I dress. Because y'all ministry, I need y'all to see me as me. So I may not always be fancy. Because this is ministry. This is that been on my knees, surrender to the Lord, have the night prayer face type thing. Up in the morning, talking to the Lord, prayer face type thing. Sat having to do prayer notes and journaling, making sure I did my morning prayer request to the ministries that I needed to do. Dress, okay? What is it that is your schedule? What is it that you need to do in order to prepare yourself? Some people don't want to sit up there and be like, oh, I'm going to get up and I'm going to look all fancy. Some people don't want to do that. Now, I say that there's a balance. Meaning, if I'm married, I know that, okay, I need to at least look presentable on a day-to-day basis. If I need to look presentable, my go-to presentability is I'm going to put my hair in braids. Because my braided hair I don't have to touch that on a day-to-day basis. But my natural hair, if I keep it natural, if I keep it out, if I keep it plucked out, so on and so forth, that's more maintenance for me, more things to do. I'm not in the mood for that. I got too much work to do. So I either put my hair up, or right now I got it in bun, but it's in the back. So it's like, what is it that makes it easiest for you to do what you need to do on a day-to-day basis in order to be able to fulfill your needs as a wife? And then when kids come into the picture, if you have kids, how are your kids? What schedules are you putting your kids on in order for you to maintain? How are you praying over your kids? How are you bringing God into your day-to-day lives so that you are teaching and rearing up your children in a way that they need to go? Because some parents, they believe that just because they go to church, that's all that really needs to be done. I'm taking my kids to church. I'm putting them in children's church. I'm praying with them at night. My mother prayed with me every night when I was 5 years old. And I still ended up as an adult getting into some stuff. So, I was still a very kind, sweet, nice-hearted, kind-hearted person. But I still ended up getting into stuff. How are you praying over your kids? How are you teaching them and training them up in the way that they should go? But I remember church growing up. I didn't go very often. I fell asleep many times. But yes, I went. And if it hadn't been for that, just the few times I did go, I may not have had the recollection and understanding that I have now in order to lead and guide me in the way that I should go now, in order for me to become the type of woman and the godly ordained wife that I'm preparing myself to be in this season. There's also Genesis. You go through 1 and 27 and 28. God created man in his own image of God, and he created him, male and female. He created them, and God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply till the earth is subdued, and he has dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds and the heavens, and over every living thing that moves over the earth. Malachi 2:14-15. But you say, why does he not? Because the Lord was witness between you and the wife of your youth, whom you have been faithless. She is your companion and your wife by covenant. Isaiah 54:5. For your maker is your husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, and the Holy One in Israel is your Redeemer. The God of the whole earth is called. Songs of Solomon 8:6-7. Set me as a seal upon your heart, a seal upon your arms, for love is strong as death. Jealousy is fierce as the grave, and its flashes are flashes of fire. The very fire of the Lord, many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If a man offered for love the wealth of his house, he would be utterly despised. Ephesians 4:2-3. With all humanity and greatness, with patience and bearing with one another, love, eager to maintain unity in the Spirit, bound by peace. Colossians 3:14. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds it all together and in perfect unity. Ephesians 4:9. Two are better than one, because they have a good return on their labor. If either of them falls, one can help the other up. Pity the one who falls and has no one to help them up. If two lay down together, they will keep warm. How can one keep warm alone. And there are many, many more verses. Go to the website, The Knot, and look up Bible verses. I think it's called Bible Verses for Marriage. I think it's about 47 verses on marriage. Look up 47 verses, The Knot on marriage. I think that's what they call it. And it goes through all of the biblical verses on marriage. God has created marriage. God has created marriage for his children, but we have to learn to know how to biblically walk in it. When I was in Brooklyn, I used to go to this church, and I had a copy of the Brooklyn Tabernacle's Bible, and it had great side notes. I recently bought a Bible, this beautiful turquoise blue Bible with a beautiful turquoise case that I keep, that has notes in it. I haven't seen the exact notes of dictation on the side for marriage in that particular Bible, but these verses are beautiful verses to go over when it comes down to praying over your love, your marriage, and what goes on within and in marriage for you. Because marriage is the one thing that the enemy fights, and he fights it hard because he knows that if two people come together and become one, that it is a whole hell threat to the person, and it's a threat to the enemy, because they're going to come together and they're going to destroy every plan that the enemy has. For me, I know that it is a war for me to get to where I'm trying to go to, but I know I'm not delayed. I could explain that, but let me just say that I have spiritual understanding that I'm not delayed when it comes to that. Things are coming together, and things will happen is according to the Lord's plan in my life in relation to my marriage. But I know that I'm learning to become the person that my wife, as a wife, my husband needs. Let me put it that way. So when it comes down to marriage, there is an actual biblical definition of what marriage is, and it's not woman and woman, wife, husband. Society right now, especially as we come to the end of June, is kind of talking about ridiculous rules and laws and certain things in order to push push certain agendas, let me put it that way. And some of them don't even make sense, because, for example, when you have two people, a man and a woman and a woman, why would they need birth control contraceptive if neither of them have compatible body parts to produce a child? I'm going to leave that right there and let you think about that. So the question is, how are you operating in order for the preparation for your own marriage? In what way are you preparing for the things in which you are praying for in relation to your marriage? How are you preparing to stand in the shoes and be in a marriage? What does marriage look like for you in the name of Jesus? How are you in operation? What is the key, the components that make good for your marriage, the communication, and the things that are necessary in order for you to stick it out for the times that will get tough? That there is much given, but much is required. There's going to be things that you will be going through that you will have to make it through and over as humps in your life. How are you rearing your children? as I stated a little bit earlier. Are you praying over your children? You need to be praying over your children even if you don't have children yet. If you're not even married, you need to be praying over your children. Every minister I know is praying over their kids, and they ain't even had kids yet. They are praying over themselves. They're praying over their wounds. They are praying over their children. They are praying in relation to the things in which they are called to do, because this is the season and this is the time that the Lord is bringing forth the manifestations of the things that are of God. Pray for your kids. Pray over them mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually in order to protect and cover them for when they come into this world. Protect and keep a covenant with them to protect them from the spiritual warfare in which you had to go through. Every demonic attack that would have been associated with your bloodline, to have them protected from it in the name of Jesus. Pray and keep your kids covered in the blood of Jesus Christ. Because I even know from a woman that coaches me, she has to pray over her daughters, and she has to pray over her son, over certain spiritual attacks, because when the enemy cannot get to you because you have good discernment, good judgment, and so forth, that you can identify, and a parent has taught them how to identify certain spiritual attacks, that they know what not to let in and what to let in, that they start to come after their minds, start to turn them, start to try to turn them in wrong directions and so forth, start to speak to them about suicide, speak to them about all kinds of stuff. And this woman prays over her children. Not only does she pray over her children, she washes their hair and prays over them. She won't let everybody touch her kids to do their hair unless she knows for certain who's doing it and what kind of spirit is behind that person. These are the things that you have to do for your children. Death of parents. Everybody is going to experience a death of their parent. And I remember years ago I was watching Medea. Is it Medea's Family Reunion? I think it was Medea's Family Reunion, and one of the speeches that Medea gave was talking about when you hit around your 40s, that's when you start to see death in the family. Start to see the prior generation passing away, whether it be your parents, whether it be uncles, aunts, so on and so forth. You start to see those people starting to pass from that prior generation. You start to begin to be faced with mortality. How are you facing mortality in your marriage? How are you talking with each other about it? How are you supporting one another within it? How are you praying over each other in relation to it? If one loses a parent, how does the other pray for that person? Illness. Now this is something I heard this actually did not come from a minister, and it made a great, phenomenal point that marriage is a form of legal protection in relation to illness. Because if you are single and you have a situation where you don't have anybody, you have to go in the hospital for a major surgery or something like that, you have no one to help you, and you have no one to protect you. You have no one to secure you, and you have no one to help you once you get home. Now, am I saying a person should get married for that? No. I'm saying that it gives you a element of understanding, blessing, in understanding that, especially now, with what's been going on in our world since 2020, read between the lines, that people were stuck in illness situations where they were in hospital beds dying, and their own family could not come and see them because of the type of illness that they were carrying. And can you imagine going through that and you don't have a spouse? Now, in some situations, some people might think that's a good thing, because it's like, that person doesn't have to deal with me. I'm going to share something personal. I have a family member that after my mother died, that this person started dating someone else. And when they started dating someone else, this particular person they were dating got sick with cancer and illness. And they ended up passing away. But they ended up breaking up with the person that I'm talking about. And when they broke up with him because they didn't want that person to see them going through their illness and dying. So it's all about an opinion, personal effect, that some people want to spend that time by themselves. Some people, and it's not so much that they probably do, it's just they don't want to burden somebody else with seeing them in that phase. But in some ways, marriage is a form of protection for that, because you have the moral support of a spouse that, God forbid anything happen to you, they're going to sit at your bedside. I had a situation in my own relationship several years ago where the person had ended up getting sick and I didn't go. I did not go, and the reason I did not go was I was dealing with a lot of things at the time, and I battled with that particular time frame as to whether I should have went with him or not. And in hindsight, I know that in my next relationship, yeah, I'm going to be there. Ain't no doubt. There's no doubt. But I had to work through, in the past few years, the things that I was dealing with in relation to the fact that I simply was raised that my parents never wanted me in the hospital like that. When my mother was sick, I was kept away from the hospital. They would not allow me in the hospital, and I didn't even get to go into the hospital room until after my mother was awake. And that was 6 months after she was put into the hospital. Anywhere from 6 to 7 months after she was put into the hospital. And she spent a year in there before she came home and passed away six weeks later. So it's that moral support, because my dad was there for her and was visiting her the whole time that she was in the hospital. Even when she wasn't conscious, he was still going to visit her. In your children, that even if you have older children, that you are covering your older children as you see things transpire with your older children. How are you covering them? How are you talking to them? How are you ministering to them? How are you showing and being an example for your kids in your marriage as the type of love and relationship that they should be seeing, so that they aren't tormented and tortured before they are able to see the fullness of the manifestation of the blessing of God in their life? You understand what I'm saying? Work issues. If you have work issues going on in your life, how are you, like, having a spouse that one can pray for you? Maybe they aren't meant to come into your office and make waves, but they're supposed to pray over you, pray with you, work with you. And maybe if you're not supposed to stay on that job, then maybe you're not supposed to stay in that job, and you together work out what you're supposed to do and what your next plan is in order to shift into your next situation and or season. How are you operating in that? And lastly, transitions and shifts in life, being able to move together. I've come to realize as we grow, as we go through life, God puts us through seasons. And at the pinnacle of the beginning of every season, He puts you through a testing season that may be anywhere from 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It all depends on how quickly you move through it. But when you are walking together with somebody else, 9 times out of 10, you're going to go through a season of shedding. And this season is more than likely going to happen once every 10 years. So you're going to see it happen between the ages of like 19, 20, 21. You're going to see it happen again between the age of 29, 30, 31. You're going to see it happen again between the ages of 40, 39, 40, 41, and so on. 49, 50, 51. You're going to see these shifts happen. You might see, now most would assume that 29, 30, 31 would be the years of marriage and rearing kids. Some people will see those years at 49, 50, and 51 because they just decide to have kids later. But you will go through transitions. Marriage, kids, graduations. You're going to be watching your kids graduate, so on and so forth. Growth. All of these things are growth, and they come with processes. Marriage is a support system that the two people that have become one walk through. So this is Taj McCameron for the ministry. I hope this blessed you. Until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessings. Bye-bye.